Joining us now to discuss is William Upton, a junior editor for the National Pulse, who has written at length about both Representative Mike Johnson's background and that of dropout candidate Tom Emmer for the Pulse. Thanks for being here tonight, Will.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Great. So how are you feeling about the new House Speaker? Was Gaetz's gamble worth it in the end?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I think that, at the end of the day, what Congressman Gaetz did was correct. Speaker McCarthy had broken his promises to the House conference. He had originally promised them that we would go through a sort of regular order, that we would have open amendments on the floor, that we would address the budget through 12 appropriations bills. And that wasn't done. And instead, he turned around and rammed a CR down through the conference, continuing resolution to keep the government funded. That most likely would have led to an omnibus bill at the end of the year that they would have rushed right before Christmas, would have been thousands of pages long, and members would have been voting on something that they never actually read. So I think Gaetz's gamble was 100% correct.
Definitely. But of course, there are still some squeaky wheels, I guess. There are some, whatever you want to term them, in Congress who, even though it all worked out, we have a speaker that at least is better than McCarthy at the very least. So that's a good deal. However, there are some who still want some kind of punishments leveraged against Congressman Gaetz and against the other 7 who joined him. I'm thinking right now, Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was saying that maybe something should be done as a punishment. They were saying that too much chaos erupted because of this. Now, of course, I think, well, this is the way it's supposed to be in Congress, right? It shouldn't just be a cush job. You're handed the gavel and you get to do whatever you want, steamroll all over what Republican voters want, which is what McCarthy was doing with all of his secret side deals with Biden and the Democrats in the House. This is the way it should be, that we fight and we get someone who at least is better than we had before. So what do you make of some Republicans that, even though it's worked itself out, there are some who are still kind of upset and they want some kind of punishment against Gaetz and company?
Yeah, there's a faction of Republicans and Democrats too that sort of view the House as junior Senate. And in reality, the House of Representatives, it's the people's house. It's supposed to be somewhat raucous and a bit chaotic and a bit confusing at times even, or maybe erratic. But yeah, there are a faction that want to do that. We saw this with McCarthy, with sort of his maneuvers towards Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan, especially. 2 members that he does not particularly like. There's a long-standing sort of feud between Jordan and Scalise on one side, and McCarthy on the other, going back over a decade, dealing with the Paul Ryan speakership, Boehner's resignation, but even before that, in terms of leadership negotiations. So the McCarthy people, they hold a grudge and they hold a memory. So I do think that is something that's going to be a bit of a concern moving forward. But I'm hoping with this sort of unanimity around Speaker Johnson, we'll be able to move past that.
And that is the surprising part, is that he got everyone to fall in line behind him. And I think that is very surprising given the circumstances. We've seen how contentious this fight has been. So I think hopefully that could lead to good things in the future. Now, as I was citing earlier, some people that I trust, like Russ Vought, the president of the Heritage Foundation as well, they seem to think that Mike Johnson is a solid guy, a solid background. I'm hearing that a lot as well. That doesn't mean, of course, there won't be disappointments in the future. No one can be perfect, especially when you have to wrangle all the different factions of the Republican Party together, but at least it seems that he has a solid base and a solid foundation, which is something McCarthy appeared to have lacked. So you write about at the National Pulse some of Johnson's background. I know he's not a name that everyone is as familiar with as they would have been with, say, Congressman Jordan or Congressman Gaetz even. So could you talk to the viewers right now about what some of his background, Representative Mike Johnson, the new House Speaker, what his background entails?
Yeah, so he's a somewhat obscure congressman from Louisiana. He's entering his 4th term. But he's been kind of one of the more quiet, policy-focused conservatives, not really known as much for some of the big kind of public spectacle, getting in front of cameras, talking to the press. But he has set off some fireworks in committee hearings on occasion. Did a very good job against Secretary Mayorkas, did a very good job against FBI Director Wray. Really kind of held them to on some of the rulings, especially on their collusion with the tech companies in terms of regulating speech online. He's been excellent on that issue. He's been unafraid to go after Attorney General Merrick Garland. But he's more of a policy wonk. He's more of a policy-focused guy.